expected the Cleveland Browns to be heading into week 18 with a clinched playoff spot and a 4-game winning streak. And a lot of that is down to one man, Joe Flacco. So I have to say a huge thank you to Colin for suggesting the topic of Joe Flacco's comeback in the comments of a previous video. And today we're going to go over a brief account of his career from, the highs of his time at the Ravens to the downfall to, him leading what is now one of the more exciting teams to watch heading into the playoffs, heading into week 18. So, Flacco was born in January of 1985, which means that we are weeks away from his 39th birthday. He played baseball and basketball at Audubon High School in New Jersey, in addition to being the starting quarterback on their football team. And actually, he was listed number 39 in a list of the the quarterback prospects of the class of 2003. So he first went to college at the University of Pittsburgh, and in his freshman year he was redshirted. So if you don't know, in American college sports, being redshirted basically means that your participation in a sports program is delayed by a year, because typically a student is only eligible to play 4 seasons in any given sport. So redshirted his first year. Then in his second year, Flacco became the backup quarterback. And he only threw, I think, 4 passes the whole year. He finished the season with 1 completion for 11 yards. So then, as you might expect, Flacco transferred to the University of Delaware in 2005. And because of NCAA rules, he could not play. He was not allowed to play that first season in Delaware. So he finally saw his first full season in 2006. So this was the 4th college football season in theory that he could have played. And the next season, the 2007 season, Flacco led the team to an 8-3 regular season record, and they performed well in the playoffs. Ultimately, they lost out in the FCS National Championship game. But while he was there at Delaware, Flacco set 20 school records. Not necessarily a school that was known for making, big players. And so Flacco definitely left his stamp on the history records, the record books, I should say, of the University of Delaware. Now, despite all of this, despite his success at Delaware, Flacco wasn't convinced that he could play in the NFL, like at that level. And actually, after his junior year, he asked his coach for permission to play baseball instead. But the coach said, "No, trust me, you'll be selected in the NFL draft." So Flacco went to the Senior Bowl, which is like an exhibition game for students entering the draft, and the NFL Combine. And he came out of that as a top 5 quarterback going into the 2008 NFL draft. Something that really stood out about Flacco during that time was his ability to throw in like rainy and windy conditions. Nowadays, we all know sort of how strong of an arm he had. But that really interested scouts, and especially ones from Baltimore, because sort of late into the NFL season, the Ravens division rivals in Cleveland and Pittsburgh, they don't always have ideal playing conditions. And so they were attracted to Flacco because his arm could put up with those conditions. So the 2008 draft comes along, and Flacco was drafted by the Ravens in the first round as the 18th overall pick. A lot of commenters didn't really agree with Baltimore on that pick, though. They thought Flacco would still have been available sort of midway through the second round, so the consensus from sort of the media, the commentators, was that they should have waited. They could have picked him later on in the draft. But Baltimore, they still said it was an easy choice, and they signed Flacco on a 5-year contract. Now, in the 2008 preseason, the Ravens' starting quarterback at the time, Kyle Baller, he got a season-ending injury. And then the backup, Troy Smith, who was a previous Heisman Trophy winner, he was ill. So Flacco became the starting quarterback in the 2008 season opener against the Cincinnati Bengals. He did not throw any touchdowns in that game, but he did get a 38-yard rushing touchdown. And the Ravens won the game 17-10. Now, fast forward to the playoffs that year. And the Ravens are in the wild card round. And Flacco actually became the third rookie in NFL history to win his first postseason start, and also I think the first to do it on the road. So they defeated the Miami Dolphins in the wildcard round. Then the next game was against the Tennessee Titans in the divisional playoff round. And he became the first rookie or the first rookie quarterback to win 2 playoff games. And finally, they lost the AFC Championship game to the Steelers. Worth mentioning, though, that Flacco was named Rookie of the Year that season. So the following year, Flacco plays even better, but he went into the playoffs a little bit injured, and they ended up being eliminated from in the wild card round by the Patriots. And that narrative sort of continues for, a couple years. The 2010 season, Flacco set season highs in passing yards, passing touchdowns, passer rating, and a season low in interceptions. So in the playoffs that year, they beat the Chiefs in the wild card round. Flacco actually became the first quarterback in NFL history to start and win a playoff game in each of his first 3 seasons. But then I hate to make a pun, but they literally dropped the ball in the divisional round, and the Steelers knocked them out with a come-from-behind win. Then, in the 2011 season, he actually made it to the conference championship again, and he outplayed Tom Brady in that game, stats-wise, numbers-wise, but they still could not quite hold on, and they were knocked out of the playoffs. Then the 2012 season comes around, and despite going to the playoffs in his first 4 seasons in a row, and, being serious contenders in the conference finals the previous year, very few people considered Flacco one of the best QBs in the league still. So this season goes off on a strong start. They enter December on a 9-2 record. But then things start being a little bit difficult. People back then might even have said disastrous. And they finished the season on 10-6, which put them in the wild card round. The wild card round was against the Colts, and Flacco finished the game with a career-high postseason passer rating of 125.6. So they win, and then they get the Broncos in the divisional round. Now, they had played against the Broncos during that disastrous December, and they had lost that game 34-17. So, bookies had the Broncos as a 9 points favorite in this playoff game. But Flacco played one of the best games of his career. In the fourth quarter, the Ravens were down 35-28 and basically had one last chance to tie the game. They were on 3rd and 3. They had no timeouts left. The clock was running and there was 45 seconds left to play. So Flacco throws a 70-yard touchdown pass to Jacoby Jones, which sends the game into overtime. The pass has been called the Mile High Miracle and one of the greatest plays in NFL history. And the Ravens ended up winning in double overtime. So the conference finals then was a rematch against the Patriots. And it's just a smooth win for the Ravens. They win 28-13. And that sends them to the Super Bowl. So this was Super Bowl 47 in New Orleans. Also known as the Blackout Bowl, also known as the Har Bowl, because the Ravens were taking on the 49ers. The Ravens were coached by John Harbaugh, and the 49ers were coached by Jim Harbaugh. But that's a story for another video. But the Ravens were again going in as an underdog. But against all odds, they won 34-31. And Flacco became the first quarterback to have a passer rating over 100 in all 4 games of a single postseason. And he was named the game's MVP, most valuable player. Now, before that season had started, Flacco had been offered a new contract with the Ravens. I think it was for about $16 million. 16, not 60, 16. But he had turned it down. I mean, talk about betting on yourself. He told his agent, I can improve, and then I can come back next year for more money. So, what better position to be in going into free agency immediately after you win a Super Bowl, right? And for a very, very brief moment, Flacco became the highest paid quarterback in NFL history when he signed a 6-year contract worth $120.6 million. I say briefly because a couple people passed him in quick succession. If you can guess who they were, leave that down in the comments. But to this day, that Super Bowl and that season will have been the peak of Flacco's career. In the 2013 season, I think it was statistically the worst of his career. For the first time in his NFL career, Flacco threw more interceptions than touchdowns on the season, and he missed the playoffs for the first time as well. And in the following years, I mean, he had blips of brilliance, right? Like, he became the fastest quarterback to throw 5 touchdown passes. I think it's something like 16 minutes and some seconds, something crazy like that. He did make the playoffs once more. He became the first quarterback in NFL history to start and win a playoff game in 6 of their first 7 seasons. And he was finally invited to play in the Pro Bowl. Side note, he turned it down because his wife was due. They were expecting to have their baby that month. But he also just couldn't quite recapture the magic of the 2012 season with that Ravens squad. And also, things just started going wrong. You know, he tore his ACL and his MCL. Then he got a back injury. Then he got a concussion. And then in 2018, week 9, he suffered a hip injury. And this rookie, some guy named Lamar Jackson, replaced him. So I don't need to tell you how that went. Long story short, Jackson did well. He went 6-1, and now Flacco was relegated to a backup role for the first time in the NFL. So now with Lamar Jackson, the Ravens trade Flacco in 2019 to the Broncos. And in week 8 of that season, he injures his neck. And the Broncos released him on a failed physical designation. So he didn't even play a full season with them. And in April of 2020, he underwent neck surgery. After his surgery, Flacco signs a 1-year deal with the Jets as their backup quarterback. He played 4 snaps in week 4, got his first start in week 5 and lost, played in week 6 and was shut out for the first time in his career. He played in week 9 and lost. And then he played in week 11 and lost. So now we're in 2021. And Flacco signs a 1-year contract with the Eagles. Basically to be the backup to Jalen Hurts. But he never plays a regular season game for them. And in fact, the Eagles traded him back to the Jets early that season in 2021. And again, he was backup QB there. And he just didn't see much action. And then he signed on for another year in 2022. But eventually, he ended up being sort of third string quarterback. Moved up and down with injuries, but just, didn't have a strong spot on that squad. So what about this season? I mentioned a comeback after all. Well, back in November of 2023, so just a couple months ago, the Browns starting quarterback, Deshaun Watson, he suffered a season-ending injury. I think it was like a broken bone in his shoulder, something like that. So the Browns sign Flacco to their practice squad. Then, in week 13, the Browns' backup quarterback, who's now starting, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he's ruled out with a concussion. So Flacco gets his first start with the Browns. And, okay, he loses that one. But he did throw a couple of touchdown passes, so they give him another start for week 14. And they win. So at this point, the Browns are thinking, okay, maybe we keep this guy around, especially with Watson being injured. So the Browns announced that Flacco is basically going to be the starter moving forward, knowing that Watson's not coming back that season. And Flacco signs a 1-year deal with them. Week 15, the Browns win. Week 16, the Browns win. Week 17, the Browns win. It was actually the first time in Flacco's career that he had 3 consecutive games with over 300 passing yards. I think he's on 4 now, and he's 38 years old and playing some of the best ball of his career. So the Browns clinch a playoff spot for the first time in 3 years, and Flacco became the first NFL player in history to have 250 passing yards and multiple touchdowns in each of his first 5 games with the franchise. Joe Flacco is looking scary. And that's where we are now. This video comes out just before week 18. And regardless of the results of that game, let me put down that. Okay. Regardless of the results of week 18, Flacco and the Browns are going to the playoffs. So it sounds like the Browns are resting Flacco for this last game of the season. So if you're not necessarily a regular viewer of the NFL, but you might be looking to follow a team into the playoffs, this could be an exciting way to go. They still only have really an outside chance of, going very far, but it's so hard to say right now because we've only got 5 games to go on. And Flacco would have to face Baltimore and Lamar Jackson either in the divisional round or the conference round if they want to make it to the Super Bowl. But who doesn't love a good comeback story? I'll be watching them for sure. So thank you very, very much to Colin for suggesting this topic in the comments. Looks like I'm losing my voice, so it's a good time to go. I'll see you in the next video.